Welcome to CFISD's Teacher of the Year celebration. Tonight you will see the hearts of our teachers, support staff, and paraprofessionals on the big screen as they share their passion to reach all students in Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. This will be a night to remember for the ages. You'll laugh.
You take a little survey, what's your hobby? I don't have a hobby. I love to work.
You'll cry.
I have kids who have been put down.
You'll say, aw.
Like to believe that they call me mom because maybe there's little parts of their day where they see someone who loves them.
But most of all, you'll know why these educators are the best of the best in CFISD. And now, please put your hands together for CFISD's Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Mark Henry.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and I will have to say, what a great audience tonight. I think this may be the most people that I've ever seen at one of these Teacher of the Year events, and this is just half of the teachers that we're going to honor, and then we're going to do the elementary teachers after this, so stick around. It's not often that you get a double feature anymore for the same price, so stick around for that. Again, thank you for being here. This is always one of my favorite events because we are going to honor the people that have the most direct contact with our students, our teachers, and our paraeducators work daily with our students and are just making a difference in the lives of our students today and have for years and will continue to do for years to come. But before we get the program started, I do want to acknowledge some people that are here today. We have our board president, Dr. John Ogletree. We have board member, Mr. Don Ryan. Board member, Mr. Tom Jackson. And board member, Ms. Darcy Mangoya. Also joining us on stage is Teresa Hull, Chief of Staff. She will be calling out the names this evening, so she's just like me. She kind of grew up in the deep south, so if we butcher a name or two, you've got to forgive us this evening. But she's ready to roll on that, and she's going to do a great job this evening. Again, I appreciate you being here this evening. I think you're going to be inspired by what you see and hear. Teachers, paraeducators, we're so honored to have you here today. And before we get started, I want to introduce one more group. Behind every great teacher, there's always a principal that's looking out for those teachers. If you're in the audience today and you're a principal of one of these educators, stand up so we can honor you. Having said that, let's get the show on the road. Thank you.
Debbie Connor. I'm the campus secretary at Black Elementary.
Amy Lavin. I'm a para at Berks Elementary.
My name is Claudia Portillo, and I work at the Berry Center.
My name is Drina Palmer. I'm the Nutrition Services Manager at Blyle Middle School.
Jerry Boyd, ALC East.
Bertha Alvarez, ALC West.
Juan Guevara, Bridgeland High School.
Arthur Teed, Carpenter Center.
Michelle Irwin, Carlton Center.
Jennifer Deniger, Cy-Fair High School, BFND.
Eric Carlson, Cy Creek High School.
Karim Seminario, Cypress Falls High School.
Zanetta Braswell from Cypress Lakes High School.
Butch Stevens, I'm at Cy Park High School.
Melissa McKenzie, Cy Ranch High School.
Senior Master Sergeant James Core, Cypress Ridge High School.
Harold Hogan, Cy Springs High School.
Susan Williamson, Cy Woods High School, CW 212.
Coach Diva Day, Jersey Village High School.
Gloria Ramirez, Langham Creek High School.
Wendy Glasscock, Winfern School of Choice.
Christina Nelms, Anthony Middle School.
Shashi Chug, Aragon Middle School.
Donna Berry, Arnold Middle School.
Cole Kerr, Lyle Middle School.
Carla Sosa, Campbell Middle School.
Pauline Goni, Cook Middle School.
James Ponte, Dean Middle School.
Sarah Ludeman at Goodson Middle School.
Victoria Baldwin, Hamilton Middle School.
Gerald Watley, Hopper Middle School.
Teresa Curtis, Kayla Middle School.
Courtney Ferris from Lehigh Middle School.
Juliana Gibbs, Salyard Middle School.
Megan Jones, Smith Middle School.
Evan DeFries, Spillane Middle School.
Sabir Shakran, Thornton Middle School.
Amber Kendall, Truett Middle School. Michelle Skronick from Watkins Middle School.
Teacher of the Year, take one.
Please welcome CFISD's Chief of Staff, Mrs. Teresa Pohl.
Good evening. We'll begin our program this evening by recognizing our Paraeducators of the Year. First, we have Debbie Connor from Black Elementary.
I did work in the real world for over 20 years. Then I became a stay-at-home mom with my two youngest children. And I was volunteering so much at Horn. They went to Horn Elementary. But one day my daughter came home and she says, "Mom, I didn't see you today. Did you get fired?" And I thought, okay, I'm volunteering way too much. So I just went out and filled out an application, and before I even got home, there was 2 messages left on my phone and I had a job offer. We all get along real well, and we're like a family. And we back each other up so well. And there are some meetings that I've gone to, and I hear with other campuses where they don't get a registrar doesn't get along with the admin or something like that. And I don't know how the office runs like that, but we're just like a timing machine. We can fill in when one's not there, and we just run really well. You're all there for one reason. We're there to support the children in the school, and once you become friends, you're all going to work well.
Our next paraeducator is Amy Lavin from Burks Elementary.
I'm a HIP para at Burks Elementary. I follow a student who is deaf and has behavior issues. I just love working with kids, watching them laugh, watching them get upset and try and feel better or boost their self-esteem, watching them just be themselves, be kids, just enjoy life. His way of expressing is lashing out, and so I'm trying to get him to calm, are you mad? Okay, well calm down, just to let him know and show there's other ways of doing it. Him and I have a bond. Sometimes I'm a little bruised or something, but he understands. He has some remorse and he's not, we're trying to help fix that. We're trying to learn different strategies, but I'm known as AMY to him. He signs. He has a little bit of vocal, but all he does is AMY, which he's signing those letters AMY, but we're just now getting him to say my name, so it's neat.
Our support staff paraeducator of the year, representing the Berry Center, Claudia Portillo.
I am the head custodian. Our complete staff is 17 plus me. What I like about my job is the people, the different events. You get to see everything behind scenes. You get to see the before, the during, and the after. Concerts, different events. We get to see Lady Gaga, Cirque du Soleil. As a team, we work hard to create a perfect experience for the guest. Well, I'm from El Salvador. I grew up there until I was 12. Then I moved to America and I worked hard, and they asked me if I wanted to be part of the team. And that's how I come to the Berry Center, and then the head custodian position was created, and I got the position, and I've been there doing that for 10 years. My dad always said that if you want something, you need to work very hard, and hard work pays off.
Our next support staff paraeducator, Andrina Palmer from Blythe Middle School.
I started with food services, as we were known then, in 1990 as a part-time job. As the general manager, a great deal of my time is taken up with management. I like to try and help my ladies working in the kitchen. I'm perfectly still capable of scrubbing chili pots and getting in the sink. I love to help them serve on the lunch line. That's one of my joys. I'm 74 years old, last month. I'm from Scotland originally, and my husband has been trying to get me to retire for the last 10 years, but I still love the ladies. Y'all are wonderful, and you know I love y'all.
We'll now begin our Teacher of the Year honorees for secondary schools. Representing Cypress Ridge, Senior Master Sergeant James Core.
Although we're ROTC class, we don't allow any recruiters in our classroom. Recruiters are usually down in the lunch area, and we allow them to go and see them on their time, not on our time, because basically we're teaching them to be better citizens, you know, in the school and in the community, not just to go in the military. Now, if that's something that you want to do, we're more than willing to help you get to the military if that's something that you're interested in. It's not a typical class. I mean, we talk about business, talk about management, talk about education, talk about going to college, also talk about how to get a job, how to interview, how to write a resume. And I think that's one of the things that we see at Cy Ridge is that when a lot of the kids come back and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is the job I'm working. Oh, by the way, thank you for giving me that advice. You know, oh, thank you for helping me put my resume together, those kind of things. And when you see that, or some of the letters that you get back, or when they graduate, they hand you your card and it's like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, which is pretty cool.
Our next honoree, Amber Kendall Truett Middle School.
We give them different scenarios, and we'll have a student be the teacher, or sometimes, you know, us teachers will play the student, and they have fun because we'll do the behaviors that they do, and they're like, we do that? I'll keep blurting out at them while they're trying to tell me a direction, tap my pencil, just get up, start wandering and bothering the other students, and they start getting frustrated. You know, they'll start trying to like raise their voice a little bit, or they'll clench their fists because they're starting to get frustrated because I'm not stopping while they're trying to talk. And sometimes they'll laugh too. You know, they think it's funny, like, that's what I really do, are you sure? And it's good to see them try and get me to follow directions. When I start following directions, and I'm like, oh, they can take a deep breath now too. I just want them to be happy and enjoy coming to school. And so I try to make, you know, school a safe place, and that's something that they enjoy.
Representing Winfern School of Choice, Wendy Glasscock.
I tell my students when they come to my class that I want them to leave my classroom at the end of the semester or mini-mester with two things. One, I want them to appreciate the government that we have in the United States, even though it's not perfect and, you know, has flaws. It's so much better than other countries, and I try to point out how good we have it. And the other thing I always tell them I want them to leave with, and I look at each of them, you know, in their eyes, and I tell them, I want you to leave here knowing that you can accomplish anything in the world you want to do, and there's nothing that can stop you. And I actually give them little notes on Mondays, and they're rolled up, and I tie them like little diplomas, and each one of them, at the end of the little message, whatever it says, I believe in you, hugs Miss G. Because I don't think that they hear that all the time the way that I did growing up. And I think it's important for them to hear that every day and to believe it.
Next, we have Courtney Ferris, Lyby Middle School.
Back in the day, you went at a certain pace. The teacher would work through the examples that were in the textbook, would answer questions specifically that, you know, students would ask, and then you would do the practice problem from the textbook, and then you would go home and do homework from the textbook. It wasn't anything challenging, it wasn't anything creative, it wasn't anything that, you know, lets you move quicker or slower based on your needs. So a lot of times I work with kids that have not been successful in the past, and I have kids who have never passed a STAR test and who are able to pass it on the first try in 8th grade. And it's just because they get that ownership of what they're doing in my classroom every day, and it sinks in, they get it. Somebody takes the time to make it real for them.
Kareem Seminario from Cypress Falls.
I grew up in Peru, Lima, Peru. My father was a doctor. He passed away when I was 13. Not everybody knew my dad passed away. You know, I was going through a lot. But one teacher stopped me and he said, "You look different." One of the things he was like, "You're a fighter and nothing is gonna stop you." And I remember when I came to the United States and I tried to apply to, yo hablo español. And that's my first language. And then trying to learn all the stuff for passing the test. And people say, "I don't think you will never pass that test. And how are you gonna teach? Your accent is very strong." And I still wonder, do my students understand me? I say, "Well, I'm not teaching in English, I'm teaching in Spanish, so that's no problem." So being able to, to pursue your dreams and continue and not stop, I think that's what he taught me. And I think I'm blessed to have the opportunity to talk to these kids about teaching them not only about the curriculum, but about life.
From Watkins Middle School, Michelle Skronik.
I grew up in a small town called Flushing, Michigan. It is just outside of Flint. Whenever I talk about being from the Flint area of Michigan, most people hear Flint and associate it with the water crisis. And I've seen so much empathy come out of young kids. I had students asking, like, "Can I donate something? How do I get in contact with someone up there?" And that was amazing to me. It kind of opened up my eyes. Growing up where I did, I see a lot of the haves and the have-nots. And I knew becoming an educator would help kind of even the playing field. And that's where I stand, what inspires me every day. I have the opportunity to help students achieve their dreams, no matter where they started.
Next, we have Melissa McKenzie from Cypress Ranch High School.
So we teach juniors and seniors about early childhood development, about working with children, how children learn, and then in October-ish we start running a licensed preschool by Child Care Licensing, and the high school students become the teachers for the preschoolers. They have a better understanding and better respect for what it means to keep a kid engaged in something, and a respect for how hard that is to do. They kind of change the way they behave sometimes in class when we don't have the preschoolers. They're like, "Oh, we're acting like the preschoolers now." Yes, you are. So the class really helps the kids understand how much work goes into being with kids. If we have kids in our nursery, we'll have infants, toddlers, and our preschoolers. And so they realize that, yeah, they're cute, but they are so much work, and it wears you out. If they're having a bad day, the big kids, they have a good day after they've been with the kids, the little kids, but like, yeah, I don't need to rush into this anytime soon. So it's living, walking, breathing birth control, if I'm allowed to say that.
Next, we have James Fonte from Dean Middle School.
In New Jersey, we had to take cooking and sewing. I could still run a sewing machine. And then once I got into high school, we had the opportunity to start taking a shop class. I'm teaching woodworking, metalworking, engineering, but I'm teaching them how to measure. I'm teaching them how to do the math that they're gonna need to do for that measurement. I'm teaching them real world stuff. You know, I'm trying to get work ethic. Part of what you're gonna get paid for when you get out into the real world is how hard you work. You know, if you're not working hard, people aren't gonna keep you around. I had one kid come back this year and he said to me, he was like, "Mr. Fonte, you were right." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "Man, these high school teachers, man, they make you work." I'm like, I told you. And I was like, well, just wait till you got to report to a boss. And they're going to turn around and be like, this project was due today. Where are you at?
Representing Hopper Middle School, Gerald Watley.
Back when I was in middle school, I had a teacher tell me, "Oh, just try this problem." And then I would try and attempt the problem. And then after I got through working the problem, they just sent me to the back to go and finish my work. And at that moment, I realized that, I was getting looked over and I wasn't really connecting with the teacher, and the teacher really didn't pay me any attention. They said that I wasn't that smart and I wasn't that intelligent, and I probably wasn't gonna make it that far. And it was my first year teacher. I looked at the answer I said, no, it's not right, but I can show you how to work it out. And me and the student worked through the problem, and then he realized that he could do it too. Maybe 2-3 months later, in the 8th grade, he writes me a letter. He said, thank you for acknowledging me. And ever since then, I kind of held on to that. And that's what pushes me forward, because, you know, all you have to do is acknowledge somebody.
From Arnold Middle School, Donna Berry.
I was married and we farmed, and thanks to my family, I have a work ethic. We worked all the time. Unless the church was open, we were working. You know, when you take a little survey, what's your hobby? I don't have a hobby. I love to work. I want to be the best I can be at my job. And I want my kids to do the best that they can do, you know, in their life. I've been in the trenches where some of my students will be, and I can relate to them because of that. I've never had a parent that couldn't communicate with me because I talk on their level. Just because I went to college does not mean I'm smart. It means I worked hard, and I did work hard for it, and I studied hard for it, and I stuck with it. Me and my kids, we communicate before we ever talk math. We talk math second day.
Next, we have Jerry Boyd, Alternative Learning Center East.
Before I came to Cy-Fair, I worked for 14 years in the Texas Youth Commission, which is now Texas Juvenile Justice Department. I've worked with kids that were at risk who had been incarcerated. My mother taught in Cy-Fair, so I'd heard about ALC from her. That's kind of what I felt my calling has been. I've always felt that, and I've seen it in my career, that there are kids who are just constant behavior problems, constantly acting out in one way or the other. It's that one thing that somebody told them, or most likely, it's that one thing that several people have told them over and over again that finally clicks, and it's that kind of aha moment. But you know, those around them don't see that they've had the aha moment. It's there, and then gradually they come to a realization that it's time to make a change. And my hope is that they're going to learn from that and grow from that and make that change and become the good people they are.
From Bridgeland High School, Juan Guevara.
50 to 70% of them come into the class expecting that they're going to end up pulling out their iPhone and just basically being able to like throw on Instagram filters on everything, and they're ta-da photographer. The class is taught from a very historical perspective, so we start them off where they have to make their own cameras. They have to learn how photography came into existence, so we spend quite a bit of time discussing the chemistry behind it, and spend about 3 or 4 weeks letting them get their equipment, because they have to go out and find a 35mm SLR. They have to find one that allows them to be able to adjust their shutter speed in their aperture. Then they learn how to shoot 35mm film. They go a long way in between from when they first make their first pinhole camera to when they are able to pick up a digital camera. And I feel like it's important for young people to be presented a very real version of the world that we live in. And what better way to do that than by freezing moments in time and capturing it on film or on camera or however.
From Goodson Middle School, Sarah Ludeman.
Her name was Mrs. Watson, and she taught 3rd grade. She had this energy about her that she was always positive. She made learning fun. I can remember her like dancing around the room to a certain book that we read, and she was just very animated, and I always just loved to watch her to see what she's going to do next. I feel like I'm very animated. I always try to put something that helps the kids remember something that I've taught. I mean, I don't do cartwheels because I don't have enough room on my desk to do the cartwheels, but I might. I might be like when I'm teaching revolution, I'd be walking around the room saying the word really slowly so they understand revolution takes a lot longer than rotation, rotation, rotation. Now I'm all teary. I think that I just remembered how she taught me to learn, and so I've taught my kids.
Representing Campbell Middle School, Carla Sosa.
I've always known that I wanted to be a music teacher. My mom was a music teacher, and
so it's always just been in my bones. Majored in music at the University of Houston, Moore School of Music, go Cougs. And I have kids that are coming from all kinds of different things at home. And so music is the universal language. And so they can come to school and they can express themselves. And so there are some songs that are fun and uplifting and they can kind of take them away from the things that they're dealing with. But then there's also songs about actual things that they're going through. They'll come back to me later and say, you know, Miss Sosa, this song really sang to my heart. They are literally my children. I tell them that they call me Choir Mama. Choir Mama means that I will always be there for them. I will accept them for who they are. I'm gonna let them know when they're wrong. I'm gonna let them know when they're out of line, but I'm gonna do it out of love. I genuinely care for them. Choir Mama.
Next, we have Christina Nelms from Anthony Middle School.
So I decided to start substitute teaching when my youngest son went into elementary school. It became apparent very quickly that I loved the classroom and I loved the students, and I started immediately figuring out how I could get my certification, finish my education, and become a full-time teacher. I remember sitting in a classroom, and I remember looking around the room and it wasn't decorated. And I remember thinking, who would want to come in this classroom? And then the kids came in and I tried loving on them and just being the best sub I could. But I remember sitting there and praying. And I said, God, if you give me a classroom, my kids will want to come to class. My kids will be excited and I'll make the room feel like their home. I'll make the room feel like a place where they will want to be. And I knew in that moment that I didn't want to be a sub anymore. That I wanted my own class.
From Cypress Creek High School, Eric Carlson.
I'm fascinated by chemistry, and pretty much every day I'm looking at chemistry. I mean, I try to blow up anything that we can. Anytime we evolve any kind of a gas, I'll trap it in a balloon and blow it up. Each Halloween, we try to blow up as many pumpkins as we can. There's a tremendous amount of applications. There's the combustion reactions, there's the thermodynamics of it. So you've got all the heat evolved and measuring that heat. There's gas laws involved. How many chemical ingredients do we need to put into this volume of space to push out the walls? My favorite part of teaching is actually teaching. It's not the paperwork, it's not grading, it's the actual interaction with teaching students for that aha moment. The thing that I would try to do just to interest them, to keep their interest, is blow stuff up.
Next, we have Teresa Curtis representing Kayla Middle School.
All those seeds that I planted, I'm seeing them grow. I go to Cypress-Fairbanks, and the guy that's at the ATM is Nick, a guy I taught. He's like, hey, Miss Curtis, what you need? And I'm like, hey, I just need some money. But I know because I had a great relationship with him that he's not messing with my money. He's gonna give me my money, and it's all good. And then I can go to the outlet mall and I see like Chloe, who is about to graduate from Prairie View, my school that I graduated from. She's gonna go into the military and she's gonna be a psychiatric nurse. That's my seed that I planted years ago. This is a ministry, and it takes a ministry of planting those seeds. No matter how rough the ground is, you keep watering, and you keep watering, and you keep loving, and you keep pouring, and you keep pouring, because it's gonna grow and it's gonna be awesome.
Next, we have Crystal Day from Jersey Village High School.
I am Crystal Day, better known as Coach Diva Day. I'm not the typical diva. I just feel like I have to say that every time I say diva, right? So I think there's probably a negative connotation when you hear the word diva, but when I first started coaching, I used the word diva, and we talk a lot about the word diva, but I was very big on acronyms. I wore my kids out with acronyms, so. But for us, diva stands for, a young lady who's determined in everything that she does, no matter what she does. Or a young lady who's gonna be intelligent, making the right choices. Doesn't mean that I have to be the smartest person in the world, but I'm gonna make intelligent decisions for myself and for my life. The V is vibrant, so every Every aspect that they walk into, I want them to shine. I don't care what that looks like. I don't care if you're gonna be a teacher, if you're gonna be a lawyer, if you're gonna be a doctor. And then just amazing. So leave people with a just breathtaking experience from you every time they encounter you. So whatever that looks like for them, whatever world they enter into, I just want them to have the characteristics of a diva. So that's where that came from.
Next, we have Paul Langoni from Cook Middle School.
My father's a plumber. I tried to get into plumbing. I didn't like it, so I wound up going back to school, got my associates. While I was getting my associates, I was management at Starbucks, did that for a while while I was in college. And then when I finished up college, I got into teaching. And I even tell them the story about my dad worked really hard. My dad, I remember being in attics at night and, just working late, hard. I mean, when I was in high school, I did stuff like lifting water heaters in attics and things like that. And that made me want to do something different. Strange enough, I even tell the kids, there are certain jobs you can't even apply for if you don't even have a basic four-year college degree. And let's be honest, it doesn't have to be college. They can learn trades. They can, whatever they have a passion for. Because I can be honest, my dad makes more money than I do.
Next, we have Sashi Chuga from Aragon Middle School.
Read 180 is a reading intervention program. I'm just not going to give up. You can be rude, you can be mean, you can cry, you can love me, and they're mine. I know what goes on at home. I know their entire life. Their parents don't know I know, but I do. So we talk. There are surprises sometimes. I have kids who have been put down. No one trusts them. People think they can't do anything. I don't see them like that because when they come to my class, they're mine. So if they're hungry, I'm gonna feed them. If they need clothes, I'm gonna clothe them. And then there are some good fun surprises too. Like mom and dad had an argument, mom won. So that's kind of fun too, to hear all that. So things like that.
Representing Cypress Parks High School, Butch Stevens.
Started off teaching for 12 years at the elementary school level, doing 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and now teach video and yearbook. Well, I'm highly involved in my church doing video, and I got the opportunity to go to a missions trip for a few weeks in Africa, and so now I have my own video production company. SoFly Video Productions is the name of the company that I run. Now, I try not to make it too big so that way it doesn't get in the way of teaching, but my mantra, the word is hustle. So I hustle hard and I share with them my success stories so that way they can see you work hard at something, you have dedication, you'll get the results. I take my students on different shoots that I do if I've got the ability to. A couple of students have went with me to a wedding and shot that, so they got real world experience. They even help CFISD shoot the dog canine videos, and their footage is out there and they could use it and say, here's footage that I shot, so that's pretty cool. I never liked school growing up. Hated it, didn't have anyone in my family that enjoyed it, so now that I'm a teacher, it's one of those, I want to make school fun and engaging and exciting.
Next, we have Bertha Alvarez, Alternative Learning Center, West.
In ALC, we do not only teach the kids the subject, we want to be there for them. Be the adult that they probably don't have, be their shoulder, or the person they don't have at home. Because a lot of our kids are homeless, they live in foster homes, or they don't have mom, or they don't have dad. So I try to be there and I tell them that I'm their big mama. I say, Big Mama is gonna get you. So I'm there for them. They always say to me, why do you believe in us so much? And I said, because you are part of me. They say, you don't even know what I'm here. Do you wanna know? I say, no, I don't need to know. I just need to know that you're here. For the time being, I wanna make it perfect. I wanna make it nice. I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to feel secure. I want you to know that I will protect you regardless of anything and that I'm here for you.
From Langham Creek High School, Gloria Ramirez.
I knew I wanted to play trumpet because I saw this picture of it. You know, when I was in like 3rd, 4th grade, they had this picture on the wall, and I said, I like that shiny instrument. I wasn't sure what it was, but I knew I liked it. And so when my dad bought records for my sister of Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass, and I remembered that, I said, oh, I like that sound. So that's how I started. And they said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to be a band director. And they said, okay, well, let's get you ready for that. And I said, well, I'm going to U of H. And they were like, all right, I was going to be the best band director ever. And that would mean win awards, do all that stuff. And I've done all that. You know, we've done all that. If you go in our band hall, you'll see all these trophies. And I'm not saying trophies are not, you know, but we're out for something bigger than that now. It's like, you guys, you're going to get your first division. Don't worry about that. Now let's see how high we can raise the bar. And they're with me on that. As long as they're making a positive impact, that's what we're about. You know, whatever you choose to do, you know, you have a happy life. Go Cougs.
From Blau Middle School, Cole Kerr.
My experience mostly has been with students who have very severe disabilities. Some of the kids other people were afraid of. And my biggest success was seeing these kids go from combative and screaming and hating everything about school to having these long periods of time where there was no aggression, and physical or verbal. Somehow I think like they do. I'm not sure how to explain it except that I'm able to get into the heads of the way they think. A lot of my experience has been with children with autism, and they struggle a lot socially, and I think I've had issues in the past. I'm much better than I used to be, but socially, and so I feel like sometimes I can relate to them in a way that other people don't. And so when they get a teacher that basically loves them, they blossom.
Next, we have Victoria Baldwin, Hamilton Middle School.
We have frog dissections. That's, you know, when the kids come in, that's the first question they ask. When are we doing frogs? They want to see what's inside. You know, I don't want to say hack things up. But, you know, they want to see what's inside. Even the kid that says, I don't want to do that, they're sitting there watching. And then they're usually the ones that, oh, okay, let me get that scalpel or those scissors and I'm ready to join in. We just finished the body systems prior to this, so now we're going to apply and compare our anatomy with the frog and see what do we have that's in common. And we're going to bring back, well, what does that body system do? Now let's apply it to this. So we've done the frog, we've looked at their digestive system, and then we lead that into Blue Day. So the idea is we eat and drink things that are blue. And the theory was, not as much now, that if you eat all this blue, you will poop blue. So, and I tell the kids, I talk about poop a lot this year, which, you know, they're a little squirmish by the time we get to all this. And they're like, do we need to share that? No, you do not need to share that with me at all. I will believe you if you tell me, so.
Next, we have Jennifer Deniger from Cyfair High School.
I was actually a biochemistry pre-med major. I took a class where we were dissecting some cryptobiotic worms, and I decided I don't like yucky things, and so being a doctor is probably not the thing for me to go into. And my mom said, well, you've always been around kids. I babysat, I nannied. I have a baby brother and sister, and I helped to raise them. She said, why don't you go into teaching? My first year of teaching, I was like, what am I doing? One of the parents, her daughter was not doing well in my class. She came to my classroom and started yelling at me and telling me I was like the worst teacher ever. And I was crying, and I ran to another teacher's classroom, and she was like, don't listen to any of that. You know, when you become a seasoned teacher, you can look at a first-year teacher and know whether they're gonna make it or not. And so she saw that in me, and she said, no, you need to stick with it. You know, you'll be fine. I stuck with it. I mean, obviously, I'm here 20 years later. That's an awesome thing.
From Cypress Woods High School, Susan Williamson.
I teach English, and so with English, there's so much conversation that happens that maybe doesn't happen in other content areas. But in English, we talk about so much and write about so many things. But I feel like through the conversations, I get to know the kids, and it's having that effect on them and seeing the seeds that you can plant along the way blossom throughout high school, and just being someone for them, being an advocate for them, trying to help them figure out who they want to be, what they want to be, where they want to go. And I think that's really kind of what it all comes down to when you're teaching, is letting the kids know that everything is a possibility, everything is an opportunity, and to grow it instead of squelch it by creating an atmosphere in which the kids feel safe to take a risk, feel validated for taking those risks, know that they're a valued part of the environment, so they will take a risk.
Next, we have Zanetta Bracewell representing Cypress Lakes High School.
In the VITAL program, we help them gain vocational skills as well as independent living skills. And so when they age out and they become adults and productive citizens, they can be able to take things with them, just teaching them how do I behave out in public, being able to order from a menu, paying the cashier, receiving your change, knowing if you had enough money if you purchased something. When they're with me, they are adults, and we do adult things. With the family, they'll just up and like, let's go to the movies. The family pays for it. The family does everything, you know. But when they're with me, they have to go up and purchase their ticket. They have to go up and go to the concession stand or go to the cashier, or we're making them do it instead of most of the times when they're with the parents are doing everything. So it gives them a chance to be able to do it for themselves.
Next, we have Megan Jones, Smith Middle School.
I've always wanted to be a teacher. I played school since I can remember. I've got 2 younger siblings and just kind of always liked to be the boss. Oh, I was the boss. You were gonna sit down and do what I said. We were gonna practice math, science, whatever it was, but you listened to me. With other people's kids, I have way more compassion than I did for my own siblings. Beth Myskins, she was my favorite science teacher, favorite teacher ever. She left the biggest impression on me, just with the way that she taught and the questioning styles. When I think of science, that's the one class I can remember. You know, not necessarily 8th grade, not high school. So many kids come into science thinking science, it's hard, it's, you know, it's STEM related, it's just beyond them, and it's really not, especially at 8th grade, you know, and it shouldn't be. And so many kids don't like science at 8th grade because they've gotten discouraged and it's not fun anymore. But then when you hear them say, I love science now, or their parents telling you, my child absolutely loves science now because of you, it's like, that's why I do what I do.
From Thornton Middle School, Sudhir Shakran.
I originally was interested in children and science and serving children to the best of my ability through medicine. So I went to pediatrics. My background was in cancer research. And then I had a revelation that I wanted to actually be able to reach children in a way that was more meaningful for me, and that involved education. I actually grew up in poverty, and a lot of students, they look at me and they make a lot of assumptions based on my appearances, on my name. They don't realize that I grew up in a neighborhood just right next to where they grew up, under same socioeconomic backgrounds as they did. I had a lot of the similar challenges that they had. And so a lot of times they have these assumptions, and I want to make them aware that you can reach certain aspirations and certain dreams despite those challenges. And I like to at least make them feel like there is actually a connection between me and them. Even though my name may sound so different, I might look very different from them, we're actually coming from the same place.
From the Carpenter Center, Arthur Teed.
Carpenter Center is a place for kids that have been diagnosed emotionally disturbed. Quite often, most of them have a mental illness that's known about, but in a lot of cases, mental illnesses haven't manifested yet, but they've had X amount of years of displaying behaviors that really your home campus can't really handle, in short. So we have a much, much more structured environment. We have an environment where, the teacher-student ratio is winning. It's fun to take kids, just for me, this is the high for me, is to, take a kid who's below grade level and get them up to snuff. And, we obviously don't take things very personally. We're ultimately punching bags throughout the day to some extent. We're just such a good team. That's really what it is in a nutshell. in terms of why I enjoy going to work.
Next, Juliana Gibbs, representing Salyards Middle School.
Well, you'll be surprised how many kids go off to college and they don't know how to boil an egg. I love teaching kids the basic life skills that they're going to use forever. You know, they're going to take these things and they're going to use them in their own families. In 1973, we moved to Jersey Village. I went to Post, I went to Dean Middle School, and then I went to Jersey Village High School. And I lived in the same house until I graduated and got married. And I think a lot of that has to do with the foundations that my dad put, you know, for our family. He did love to cook. He loved to grill. He loved food. So I'm sure I get part of that from him, for sure. My daughter's a teacher. My sisters are teachers. So I think we got a lot of that from him. He loved to show us stuff.
From Spillane Middle School, Kevin DeFries.
You know, our students today, they don't know one tool from another tool, and I feel like I'm helping them help themselves down the road. Some of them that don't excel in the classroom, maybe they struggle academically, but their hands are amazing. And they'll get in there, and it's almost like artwork with some of the things they can do with their hands. And the thing that is the coolest about teaching engineering and manufacturing is the tools that we have. I look at our students and go, we can make anything your imagination can come up with. We have 3D printers, we have laser machines, we have CNC, we have plasma. We can make it out of wood, plastic, or steel. Your imagination is what's going to limit what we can do. Things don't always come out great the first time. Sometimes we have to make them 2, maybe 3 or 4 times before we get the product that we really want. I tell them, I look at them and go, you know, I have 2 degrees. I have a master's degree, and you can go get certification right now and walk out of here and make more money than me.
Michelle Irwin from the Carlton Center.
These students have been told what they can't do since they were age 3. If I'm giving a student a new task, either they kind of do the blank stare, or they just say, I can't do it, or, oh no, you do it for me, or they'll even wait for me to do it for them instead of them even trying. We just kind of wait and watch, and then the students soar. And even today we were at TJ Maxx, and we were learning how to do job placements, and in 3 weeks, my students were able to do something that they thought could never be a goal they could meet, and then they were helping throughout the store and being able to do all sorts of tasks completely by themselves, and they feel the sense of encouragement and ownership, truly knowing that they can accomplish something, they can be employed, they can live a fruitful adult life and meet their goals and have a happy life. It's just wonderful. Sorry.
And our final honoree, representing Cypress Springs High School, Dr. Harold Hogan.
This is my 3rd year of teaching. I was a minister for 30 years before then and worked at a more suburban, predominantly Anglo church. Even a 58-year-old white male could be considered cool. Each year, somebody's going to challenge me to a rap competition, because I'll say something like, I can do that better than you. We'll write a rap, and then we'll freestyle another rap. He walks down the hall, swaying and saying that he's got game, but we know that he just played. There's a guy that wears his pants almost to the flow. We hope that his belt don't drop, and that's for show. He wears a necklace around his neck like bling, but I don't really get it, that's not my thing. And it always starts with a diss or two, but it always ends up with me paying them a compliment. All I can know is he makes me laugh at the end of the day. He'd settle for a B, but I want him to make an A. I wouldn't want to leave them with a diss, even though it gets the crowd yelling. I want to leave them with a positive thought.
Please welcome CFISD Board President, Dr. John Ogletree.
Let's give it up for all our honorees tonight. We've seen the best for this school year, and one thing, excellence always distinguishes itself. And so we are happy for you. Thank you for setting yourselves apart. Thank you for blessing our children, investing your passion, your schooling, your certification, your everything into them. We wish you well. God bless you. Thank you.
And one more warm welcome for CFISD's Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Mark Henry.
That was a pretty good hour program, wasn't it? Before we get out of here, I want to make sure we acknowledge some folks. This was all produced internally by the CFISD Cinema team. So if you're part of that cinema team, stand up so that we can acknowledge you. It's a little hard to see in here, but we've got several people standing. And I was thinking about it, and I know some of you know this, and many of you are really proud that the secondary group's going first because they tell me there's a basketball game on at 8:30. I'm not sure about that. But you know, when I go to a sporting event like that and they call out someone's name like James Harden, or the football game and you hear J.J. Watt and the crowd goes wild, well, I want our teachers and paraprofessionals here to turn around, and I'm going to say, here's the CFISD Secondary Teachers of the Year, and I want y'all to act like y'all are at a Rockets or a Texans game and let them know. So teachers, paras, please stand, turn around, find your kinfolks, and introducing the CFISD Secondary Teachers of the Year. One final thing, JJ and James are sports heroes. These are real heroes. Thank you, teachers, so much. Y'all have a great evening.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Please exit quickly through the north exit so that we may prepare for our next event. Enjoy the reception, and please join us at 7:30 for the Elementary Teacher of the Year celebration.